Happy Sunday. We are here. D Starfire. That's a good question. We will be better at that. um, Telling people what episodes we're going to discuss. Usually we do 6 at a time. But we'll be better announcing it like on Twitter and stuff ahead of time cuz yeah, that's fair.
I have to admit, sometimes I have to go back and watch our episode and go to the end to find out which ones you say we're going to watch.
That's okay. We'll be better at it. We just live in a life of chaos sometimes. So
This is true. This is true. We do.
yeah. Awesome. So let me make sure that I have our list for what we're going to talk about next time up. But all of that being said, welcome everyone. Star Trek Sunday. We made it. It's another week.
We're back.
We got lots of people here.
Yay.
Excellent. So we are going to be discussing the following Deep Space Nine episodes. And just to recap for everyone, Samantha is watching these for the first time. I am a many-time viewer of Deep Space Nine. But going back and watching every single episode, there's some that I watch more than others. So it's been good discussing them. So we're just going to break them down one episode at a time. The first one we're going to talk about is Rivals, and then the alternate Armageddon game, Whispers, Paradise, and Shadow Play. So these are episodes in Season 2, 11 through 16. So the first one that we're going to talk about is actually a really fun one. This one is Rivals. I really like this episode, actually. This is where this random dude shows up, and he's in a prison cell, and then there's another random dude who's, like, playing with a game, and then gets really, really excited, and he's like, the odds take over, and then, and dies, right? I think he dies right at the beginning.
Something like that.
This guy gets this device and replicates it, and starts a competing bar with Quarks. Then chaos reigns supreme on the ship. So we know we skipped last week, so it may have been a while since you watched this one, but how'd you like it?
This was fun. You're right. This was this was a great Quark episode. Seeing all his business go to this other dude, and the whole like probability thing. Like, I kind of love that because it's things that, like, they could happen. They're just extremely improbable. And so this whole device is like making that happen. But it would take a while to kind of figure that out because, like, well, maybe the odds really did make that happen. I don't know.
Right. There's nothing here that's like breaking the rules. It's just incredibly improbable stuff that's happening.
Exactly. Highly improbable. And then we had the whole side plot of Bashir and O'Brien in the racquetball. And my love for Bashir just grows.
Yeah. It's so funny. And like, because he feels so bad. Because their friendship is continuing to blossom, but it's taking its time.
Right.
And he feels so bad that O'Brien is, like, so competitive, and he's, like, this, old dude that he's, like, wearing down because he refuses to give up, and it's pretty fabulous.
It's funny. O'Brien, he's sort of wavering for me a little bit, particularly in these episodes.
Yeah, this is an O'Brien set, yeah.
Yeah, it is, and not an altogether positive one. I mean, he's still awesome. He's still O'Brien, but like, he can be a little self-righteous, or maybe a lot self-righteous, and a little stubborn and sort of like black and white. Yeah. Of all the characters right now, he's the most black and white to me.
Yeah. But for me, I mean, I guess that's why I love him.
Well, yeah, I know. I don't not love him because, again, he's O'Brien. And I loved him from, like, TNG. He was always one of my favorite characters. But getting to see more of his character get fleshed out right now they're kind of fleshing out some not so attractive personality traits.
Yeah, and if when I mentioned the names for people as we go through these, I mean, you could summarize these 6 episodes as the beginning of the O'Brien must suffer trope, because they really did, episode after episode, these were almost all O'Brien centric episodes, and they really put him through the ringer in these episodes. But I think the last one that we'll talk about kind of resets that and reminds you, like, oh yeah, he's really sweet.
He's O'Brien.
I know, who'd have thought, right? Stubborn Irish Celtic.
Who'd have thought? I just tuned into the chat. Peace Demish, thanks for asking. It's better today, but it was really, really, really bad last week. The air quality in San Francisco is just bad.
Samantha's in San Francisco. I'm in Los Angeles, so not a lot of
I definitely participated in the Armageddon San Francisco Instagram posting on Wednesday. So my latest photo shows what the sky looks like.
That's crazy. It's crazy. So back to the A plot of this one with the probability drive. It's not the probability drive. That's everyone was referencing the Hitchhiker's Guide, and it's not the improbability drive, but that's basically what it is. But I love the fact that they kind of narrow it down a little bit to, they're like, okay, something is messing with the probabilities on this ship. And they kind of go and they figure out, like, based on, which I love, based on the spin of the subatomic particles, which should be evenly distributed, they figure out where the spins are all in one direction. And they're like, it keeps increasing as they go to that guy's bar. And
that was awesome. Wasn't it Dax that figured that out?
Yes. So good.
She's so good.
We love her. It was fantastic. And honestly, like, scientifically, I was 100% here for that. I think that was a fantastic way of saying, like, probability, like, natural probability states are completely messed up, because quantum physics is all probability states. And so if you do have that where you're like, no, this is all breaking down, was brilliant. And then it's like, okay, but what my favorite, honestly, like, aside, we'll come back to the racquetball thing, but my favorite part with this plot was when they go to his store and they're like, okay, so it's this thing is what's causing all of it. And they're like, yeah, but why is this going on through the whole ship? And, like, do you know how it works? Why is this doing this? And he's like, I don't know how it works, and I replicated it. And then it's like, oh.
Cisco's reaction to that was so great. Like, he was like, I replicated a larger one. And Cisco's just like, you replicated it.
And you don't know how it works.
It's just like complete disbelief in how stupid
I know, it was like a complete, but, like, also at the same time, like, a very understandable human behavior of, like, ooh, cool device, I can make some money, let me replicate this and throw this out here. And then you realize, they're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Thanks for the follow, Shadow Figment. So we have to go back to the racquetball thing. And Bahana's asking, I think more you than me, how you liked Bashir's racquetball outfit.
Oh my. Tight.
I approve. That's fabulous. I do. Their racquetball scenes are so funny. They're so funny. Yes, Snazzy. I like that, D Starfire, the Star Trek version of you crossed the beams. Yeah, you replicated something that you didn't know and introduced it into the computer system.
Right.
But yeah, I think that the whole racquetball scheme cracks me up, because when Quark is without the probability thing, he's just seeing their rivalry and he's like, money, money, money.
Yeah. I can take advantage of this situation.
Yeah. And then, like, completely brilliantly manipulates them into agreeing to it by having these Bajoran monks there and, like, and being like, but it's for the children. Like, big wide-eyed. So are you gonna tell them that they can't buy blankets for the orphans? They're like,
seriously. I mean, And he makes it like so impossible for them to refuse with the crowd. You know, he's just like Quark, the used car salesman to the max. Like, oh, that was so great. His expression.
Whoa, the puppy eyes.
But the children.
Oh my god, yeah. And then Bahana and Astro were talking about the drugging. When he's like, drink. What does he say? It was like someone gave him that to give to Bashir, where it was like basically selling it as like some sort of, you know, alkali type, you know, drink.
Right.
And Bashir immediately takes it to go get analyzed. And Quark is like, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you looking at it? It's like,
just drink it.
Just drink it. Why do you not trust me?
The human code should be never accept a drink from a Ferengi. Rule of survival number 1.
Right, never accept a drink from a Ferengi without analyzing it first. That was so funny. That was so funny. So funny. So yeah, humor to the max in this episode. I just genuinely, I think this is one of those that treads that line brilliantly of being like a one-off, funny, but not like over the top ridiculous storyline that is just purely entertaining. I love this episode.
Exactly. Yeah, just pure fun. And then of course we have to mention that it's Humperdinck. That's all I was thinking, because he basically is acting the same character in a way too. He's like this bumbling fool who's like, oh no, I've just lost everything. Well, the whole time I was just thinking, Humperdinck, Humperdinck, Humperdinck. Humperdinck.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that in the chat, right? Or in our notes, simultaneously while me going, was that the teacher from Center Stage that I had a crush on way back in the day? And then you were like, it's Humperdinck, because we're typing in the same document. Then you were like, oh, it's Humperdinck. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, it's Humperdinck. Never mind. That's where I knew him from. And yes, he is thank you, Bahana. He is an Elorian, which is the same species as Guinan. Fun fact.
Oh.
Yes.
Interesting.
Right? Elorian. Yeah. Elaurin.
Huh.
It's in my brain somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, and but very much not Guinan like. We'll put it that way. A little bit more human fallibleness. So good. Yes. D Starfire. Yep, the actual target of "You killed my father, prepare to die." So good. Okay, any last thoughts on that one? Anything we forgot? Okay, so let's go on to the alternate. So we went from really fun, goofy Quark episode to very serious Odo backstory episode. This is where Odo's former teacher, so this is the alternate, Odo's former teacher, Mora Paul, arrives, and he believes that he's found a life form that's similar to Odo in the Gamma Quadrant, and then we learn kind of how, you know, his former teacher, he's basically performed lab experiments on him, on Bajor. He's a Bajoran scientist. And it's an intense episode. It's a lot of good backstory for Odo, and you've kind of had a little back and forth on your opinion of Odo, so I'm really curious what you think now after seeing this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to get more backstory to him as we're going through, and I thought, I mean, it was interesting to see him getting manipulated or I guess not manipulated, but just like he sort of has a dual identity crisis where he gets turned into this horrifying, like like pure instinct type creature, I guess, with no faculties of speech or whatever. He goes around terrorizing people and doesn't realize that it's him that was doing that the entire time. That was kind of fun and an interesting for him to realize that, I think. And then also there was a few moments where, what's his name? The father guy?
Mora Paul.
Mora Paul was coming on board and talking to Odo, and I felt like the actor Odo was making this choice to sort of behave kind of like a teenager with dad around. Like he was being really kind of sullen and like, of course I remembered to do that, or like, of course I can do that. It was just
like
very
very much freshman in college when parents are visiting type thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And he goes through, it's like, yeah, he responds to this person being around who's the closest thing he has to a father, like very much like Data. I mean, it was there were a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that, actually, that comparison you made with it reminded you a little bit of Lore, the Data Lore relationship. And yeah, it's cool. It's interesting. This one really breaks my heart. I think that we just see that little bit of tragedy of Odo's past, and that he was so traumatized, and actually, it's like that weird oh god, what's that syndrome called where it's like you're held hostage and Stockholm syndrome. Like, it's not exactly Stockholm syndrome, but along those lines of just the fact that like he was so abused and he was so like, it's such a traumatic thing, but at the same time this guy gave him life and gave him, without him he wouldn't be who he is now. And it's a really interesting one. But I do love that Quark picked up on the teenage thing. And he was like, oh, so this is like your dad. I knew this was a family reunion. Drinks all around.
Totally.
Really
yeah.
good.
But so in this one, like, this is where they go down to that planet and they find that obelisk thing, right? In the beginning.
Oh, was that this one? I think you're right.
I think
you're
it
right.
was.
Let me double check, but
I'm pretty sure it is.
Keep going. Yeah, no worries.
But like, so they go down to the planet. They are walking around this ruins area. There's this obelisk that's very clearly intentionally put there, by somebody. And they're like, why don't we beam this up to the thing? Because that wouldn't possibly cause any distortion or awfulness to happen. And then like, I'm just like, that seems very out of character for Starfleet. Well, I mean, maybe not, but but like, I mean, it's like the whole stealing the artifact from the planet, and then you don't possibly think that could cause any issues.
Right.
I mean, people.
Yeah.
It was very funny. I watched that happen. I wrote my notes like, did they seriously just say, let's beam this up? Like, when would that be a good idea?
Like, I feel like there needs to be more security protocols involved in this.
Yeah, well, it just seems like elementary Starfleet, like day one lesson. Like, lesson 1, don't steal the intentionally placed obelisk from the Circle of Stones.
Right. Nastro said there's like no way any reputable archaeologist would actually do that.
Exactly. I feel like Picard would be like, no, we shall not beam this up.
I do have to give a shout out to our resident Star Trek biologist in the chat. Mohammed Noor pointed out that there's a lot of great biology in this episode, and even DNA testing to determine the relationships. However, we have to note that it is a silicate-based life form and somehow has DNA, which is kind of intrinsic to DNA, is like the whole carbon-based thing. So, anyway, excellent point, sir.
Incompatible.
Thank you. Yes.
Incompatible dialogue. Oops.
Exactly. I do also love the because I pulled up the thing to remind if this was that episode, and it was, but I forgot from the opening where Quark is trying to sell pieces of Plague. The guy that had like died. And I don't know if you remember this. This is just in like the cold open. Because like Ferengis sell their own body parts when they die, as it's like that's what they're worth. And and then he's like, yeah, I don't know why you're trying to do that, because Plague is like alive and well. And yeah, so good. That's how the whole episode kicks off.
Love it.
I love it. Good times. And Cass had a question in here that is probably more directed at Muhammad, so I will let Muhammad answer that. But would they not have a form of chemical strand to guide replication and growth, not DNA, but similar to it? And given we have met silicate-based life forms in Star Trek before, that it's possible there is a DNA analog. So that's entirely possible. Awesome.
Question.
Yeah, that's a good question. And then lots of discussion in the chat with the Elorians, but I'll just let you guys all take that. Figure it out. Because we don't have any answers further than that. All right. Any other thoughts on this one?
Can move on to I don't think so.
Okay. So the next episode, I always think I hate, and then is actually better than I remember. But this is the one, Armageddon game, where Bashir and O'Brien are on a planet that helping two races, the Talani and the Caloran, dismantle these biological weapons known as the Harvesters. They basically, an accident happens while they're doing it. An accident happens. And we get note back at Deep Space Nine that O'Brien and Bashir were killed in the accident, and then we, of course, find out that they are alive and well, but the intent is that they are going to be killed to erase all memory of this biological weapon. No one who knows of it is allowed to survive. And so I really like this one. And Keiko is the one who's like, she's like, no, that's no way. Because it ends up being, they report back that it was O'Brien's fault, I think, that he had accidentally done something.
Yeah. They're like, we're not blaming him, but it was, it was unintentional, but this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. I really like this episode. I think it's got good pacing. It's got a good sort of like, let's uncover the mystery aspect of this. And I mean, we'll just throw it out there right off the top of the head. It's so funny because Keiko realizes that there's a problem wrong when she sees in the security footage O'Brien drinking his standard coffee, double strong, double sweet, in the afternoon.
Jamaican blend,
double strong blend, double strong, double sweet. Well remembered. And she's like, he doesn't drink coffee in the afternoon. This has been forged. This is fake. And then they end up finding that, yes, the security footage was forged and it was fake. But then the episode ends with him getting his Jamaican blend, double strong, double sweet, in the afternoon. And she's like, you never drink it. He's like, yeah, I do all the time. I don't know what you're talking about, but saved him anyway.
A great like sort of, I don't know, Monty Python-esque or Pink Panther-esque throwaway line and just like lighten the whole mood of the episode. And totally. It was what? This was a good episode. I love a Bashir O'Brien episode, and I was like, oh yeah, we get another one so soon. Interesting. You're right. Very well paced episode. I thought like it just sort of builds the tension. The beginning, they're working amicably with these two races who are destroying this horrible weapon, and then it switches to the mystery of DS9 thinking they're dead and then trying to and then O'Brien gets like infected, and Bashir has to manage keeping him alive as well as trying to fix the thing that O'Brien was working on. And the fact that I thought it was an interesting storyline, that the fact that these aliens were so intent on this not ever happening again, this weapon never being used again, that they're like, literally every single person who knows about this needs to die. Yeah. That's obviously a very drastic move, but an interesting way for them to be approaching this problem. And I don't agree with it, but it was intense that they thought that was what was necessary.
Yeah, they really felt like they were doing the right thing for themselves. It was looking out for themselves. I think they did a good job of creating this, like, within one episode, we understood these two races. Obviously we don't get the whole backstory of what happened, but you feel the tension. Like, you feel like there was that there's something quite serious, and that you kind of understand the planet's mindset. That's really, yeah, I think it's really interesting. Also, you made the note about like having O'Brien learn to relinquish the control a little bit. That's a good point.
Yeah. The because as I mentioned before, like he can get self-righteous and like I'm the only one who can do this. Like I'm not going to delegate this to anybody because it's going to get done the best with me doing it. And he like literally can't stand up or see to do this because of the infection. And Bashir really takes control there. He's like, no, you need to sit down. You need to save your strength and you need to guide me through this. And O'Brien, like, he finally does and like talks Bashir through the final parts of making that, I guess, radio thing work. And you can tell it's tough for him to do that, but the fact that Bashir is the one who can make him sit down and listen to reason was a great moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's again just continuing to see their characters grow. Yeah. But to some extent, I think that what we're seeing in these episodes, because this 6 episodes are very O'Brien heavy, I think we're seeing them consciously take him down a peg, right? Like this is the sort of like, he was this, great engineer. He's helping. Obviously he's like super valuable, super needed. He's able to fix anything on Deep Space Nine, which is a dumpster fire of a space station. And this is their opportunity now to be like, okay, let's insert some realism into this. And the dude has flaws.
Exactly. I was definitely noticing that conscious effort, it seemed like, in the writing to be like, okay, he's not superhuman. He's got some issues.
Yeah.
And in this episode, we also got. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
We also got Bashir's backstory a little bit, talking about the one that got away because he chose to come to Starfleet and not be a doctor, or not be a. He wanted to join Starfleet.
Yeah.
Physician. Yeah, and So.
Yeah. It's nice to see a little more backstory to Bashir. It is. I'm excited for you to see more of it too. And I mean, Shadow Figment also pointed out this is a standard now trope of O'Brien must suffer. And I think it is like one of those that he's so good that he must suffer in order to be not perfect all the time, which is fine. But
good
I love
times.
him. Yeah, and I'm glad that they are alive and that they are okay. And I do think that it is sweet, because there were a couple comments here about how Keiko, that it is sad with Keiko losing O'Brien, but her, in a very, like, I think you would see this in any sort of standard spouse passing storyline, where obviously they accelerate grief and show it in a very sort of accessible way. Where she's just like, no, I can't accept it. He's got to be alive. He wouldn't do something like that, and ends up being true. And it's kind of nice that the thing, I guess where I'm going with this is, the thing that I like is that they actually listened to her. That they did kind of give, it was like, okay, in the back of their mind, you could tell everyone was like, okay, she's grieving, like, whatever. But they did give her the space, and when she did make a good point, they were on board. So I kind of like that. She wasn't just dismissed.
Yeah, absolutely. I really, that was a very noticeable, choice that they made. I like that. I liked that a lot too.
She didn't have to go like super off on her own to investigate this. She,
exactly.
figured it
out. She had their support.
Yeah. So I do like that. Okay, so continuing the O'Brien must suffer storyline.
Oh, no.
Honestly, it's bonkers. They go right from this episode into this next one, and it blows my mind that they made this choice. But the next episode is Whispers, and Astro. Before we get to that, Astro pointed out none of his work colleagues said he drinks coffee in the afternoon at work. I mean, who knows how overt he's being with the drinking coffee, but fair enough. So the Whispers. This is the one where Chief O'Brien, or Miles O'Brien, suspects a conspiracy is going on. He basically wakes up. People are acting weird. Particularly Keiko's like, we've been up since 5:30. I'm taking the kid away. Do your thing. And he's like, what? Like, why? What? And she's like, yeah, we're just doing our thing, and takes off. And everyone is being super weird and super awkward, and he's really uncomfortable. And he's basically thinking that there's an invasion of the body snatchers scenario happening on Deep Space Nine. So he like gets, and to be fair, I'm on board with that. Everyone's behaving super weird. And then he takes off in this run in the Rio Grande and goes to try to investigate, and he's following the signal and trying to run away. And then they find out that he was the one who was body snatched, and it's a replicant of him who was thinking all these things, and they were able to find him. And intense episode. This is brutal.
Super, super intense. It was like, and then the ending happens, and I was like, okay, I need to go back and watch this entire thing again, because what the hell? But that was so interesting, the reveal, because you realize that you're seeing their behavior through O'Brien's eyes of everyone's acting weird. So it's like this, they're actually doing what the normal people would do in this situation, but we're seeing it like heightened and skewed through how O'Brien starts reading it, more and more exacerbated. And I mean, what an interesting, like, just sort of pressure cooker way of watching that develop, and us thinking we're with O'Brien the whole time. And then it's like, no. Yeah.
And if you had known from the beginning that he was a clone and that he was planted there to kill the ambassador during their negotiations, which was what happened, you'd be acting weird around him too. And you'd be, especially when he starts to fly off the handle, because you know that he's not, so it was like they were aware that something had happened, and they were trying to investigate it. And Bahana noted, like, it's like a Twilight Zone episode, and I agree. I think it's super creepy. It's a good one.
Yeah, but then so still at the end, he goes to the place where they're meeting with Cisco and Kira are meeting with the person, the whatever the aliens are called, the people,
Paradas.
So the real Cisco and Kira, that was the real Cisco and Kira.
Yes.
So who was the Cisco and Kira on Deep Space Nine? Is the same ones?
No, because remember, isn't he tracking their signature? I gotta look this one up again too. Because I think
I literally just thought of this.
Yeah, because they're there ahead of time. He's following their track. And he is so they basically get there ahead of him. Let me
right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, he was the only one that was switched.
Yeah.
Basically. But yeah, I mean, the timing of it is a little off, that you're just like, wait, but weren't you just at the station? And
yeah.
So I get that.
And that's, you keep guessing till the very end.
It's really good. And I like the fact that the actual O'Brien is basically like, this is all what I would have done, because they're asking like, well, why did he come here? Why did he do this? And he's like, because he thought he was me. Like, that's what I would have done. It's really good. It's really interesting. Let me just kind of look it up in here.
Yeah, there were some great, like, psychological thriller horror movie type shots and pacing here, especially with the stew.
Right.
I mean, that was like Hannibal Lecter-esque. What's in this? I'm not gonna eat it.
Yeah, I want you to eat this first. I don't need to eat it. I've already eaten. You're like, no, don't eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Let me see if they say anything specifically here. Nothing's popping up immediately, but for at what point Cisco went to that one. Yeah, Trek Nerd, it's a good one, honestly. Like, this is a good, because you do grow wary of the Suffering O'Brien episodes, and some of them are awful to watch. But I think this one's bad, but it's written so well that I think it's like, it's well paced. It's like you said, it's got the horror tropes that are really intense. And then DS9 fan said that line at the end where he was like, "Tell Keiko I love her." Like, yeah. So as Bahana mentioned too, their cloning technology is uncomfortably good.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
But I feel like if if the Federation has come to terms with how transporters work, I think this level of cloning technology is not like, disturbing. That all the transporter accidents that clone people and there's twins running. They're used to being like, well, our consciousness is just free to run into anything else. Okay, fair enough.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
There you go, DS9er. Thank you. So they chased O'Brien, but then he doubled back and followed them.
That makes sense.
Got it. Thank you. Well remembered. This is all, it's all just a creepy. And the whole thing is that, the B plot is really embedded in this one, that they were, these Paradas, they were having a peace negotiation.
Right, yeah. And so he was in charge of setting up the security for them, which does actually make this all the more, like, serious. And, like, it clearly seems like somebody in that group is trying to sabotage those talks, because O'Brien was the one in charge of the security. And clearly they did somehow switch him to make this happen, but he's thinking it's because of the security he needs to fix. And completely like time sensitive, really, like, this needs to get figured out.
right yeah, it's crazy. It's very, the whole concept is like Battlestar Galactica Cylons, that they get woken up, that they're activated, and then suddenly, like, when what's her face tries to kill Adama. Anyway, different franchise.
Different.
But it's what it reminded me of when she tries to.
One I still need to find.
We'll maybe after we run out of Star Trek.
Which it's coming up pretty soon.
Right.
Sort of.
Todd mentioned, haven't they heard of Zoom meetings? Why do they always have to travel to conferences? That's funny. Maybe because they didn't have to cope with a countrywide plague that forced everyone to learn about Zoom meetings. And to be fair, though, that's where the fun is. So
yeah.
You can't say they don't have fun at these conferences.
Because they need the cold opens of everyone coming back from the science conference.
Right. Exactly.
Writer's room. Have we done a science conference recently? Nope. Okay.
Right. Or a Batleth tournament. Or I love that. That's awesome. All right. Any last ones on this other than, like, O'Brien just needs a hug?
No, that sums it up.
Okay, cool. The only for me, I guess, the only reassuring thing psychologically with this episode is that all of that trauma and all those horrible things that happened to O'Brien in that episode are erased because he's dead, and the other O'Brien doesn't know about any of it. So he just goes back and he's like, okay, it's actually me now. And then everyone's like, whoa, okay, he's back. Cool, we're good. And then we just have that one dead O'Brien on Parada 4.
Yeah. He'll probably be reanimated at some point, and then we'll have like evil O'Brien. And
right.
Wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see that.
Valid. Okay, so the next episode, I actually really like this episode. Annex, our heroes are returning from the Federation Cold Open Conference.
That's brilliant.
That's
you win. You win today.
Yeah. That's that one. That's fantastic. Okay, so Paradise, this episode, O'Brien again ends up with Cisco stranded on this world that has life, that has survivors on it, and they're just like, the hell. There are not supposed to be any survivors here, and it was actually shipwrecked Federation colonists. And they were stranded 10 years prior in the same way that O'Brien and Cisco lost life support and their ship broke down. And due to this field that I didn't write down, I'll look up in a second. And Alexius is our new favorite cult leader, who is apparently technology doesn't work. It's like a constant electromagnetic pulse field on this planet that nothing technological works, and she's like helping everyone adapt to this new way without technology. And this is the one, if you don't remember this one, this is the one with the hot box, which sucks. And I know hot box is like, oh yeah, that episode. Yeah, this is my only note is there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So.
And I have about 3 notes. The first one is on all caps saying, creepy cult, run away. Yeah. Wicker Man, anybody?
Yeah, seriously.
She was terrifying. I mean, like when it first started, I was like, oh, she's, yeah, this is, yeah.
Yeah. You texted me after you watched this episode and said that she may be one of the best villains in Star Trek that you've seen so far. Yeah.
For sure.
Fair enough.
For sure. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't carry on.
I mean, well, yeah, I mean, what was interesting is it really did, to me, she satisfied all of the classic cult leader sort of personality traits and behavior, and tries her darndest to break down Cisco and O'Brien to then build them back up, you know, the way she seems to have successfully done with everybody else. Yeah. And there's that moment when Cisco, she asks him to put on the uniform, and she has already broken him down somewhat. And I just was, when he walks out still wearing the Starfleet uniform, I was like, oh, yes, Cisco, there are 4 lights. I was like,
right?
Yeah.
Agreed. She couldn't break him. It was brilliant. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riot Grains pointed out that this one you do get to see a lot about Cisco, which is great. Like, we get to learn a lot about him and his motivation and his dedication to Starfleet, where he's just like, I'm not giving up. But I think that first indication that something is wrong when they're there and she's like, okay, let's just get you settled, we'll figure this out, you know, welcome, this is our situation. And then as they walk away, she's just like, two new strong men to help us. And it's like, yeah. That's not good.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's a lot to unpack. I love this idea. So I do really like, because that whole cult leader thing is, especially for a single episode, it's hard to do totally perfect, right? And this one is good in the sense that, like, she wants a cult so bad. Like, she wants a society, not just her, but she wants a society that lives without technology.
Community.
And my partner and I were talking about this last night, where for her, it's like the people who move into the middle of nowhere, right? Go off the grid, just, I'm done with technology and all these things. Like, I want solitude. Like, I don't want to be a part of the technologically advanced society. I get that. There are people like that now. The difference is that she tricked a lot of people into living that life with her, like, forced them into that situation. And that's where it becomes like no, not so much, to the extent that then they don't leave.
Yeah, I know. This was like premeditated, like establish this community this way. And she admits that even in the end. Because O'Brien finds the thing that's dampening all of the technological effectiveness, and basically reveals her to have done this. And even after that, they only one person goes up with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was going to say something else and I completely forgot. What was it?
Sorry. I do
okay.
really like the I mean, honestly, I think we underplayed it a little bit, but the amount that they try to break Cisco, like she sends that woman to seduce him, and I love it. It was like a perfect person who's a perfect example of someone who's like not resisting that cult influence, where he's just like, she sent you, didn't she? It's like, yeah. She did. And he gets it. He sees through the whole thing, and you can see the other people start to chip away. And it's brilliant. Like, I mean, I'm obsessed with like cult stories and documentaries and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, no, same here. I find them morbidly fascinating.
Yeah, and that whole scene where the girl dies, and then they pull out O'Brien before he found the device, but when he's trying to figure out what's going on. And they're just like, she's like, he must be punished. He was trying to activate their devices. That's the greatest crime you can commit, is this dedication to technology. And then that other guy, the other older guy, was like, but he was just active. Like, he was probably just trying to help the kid. Like, they have medical devices, and it was all in good faith. And she's like, this isn't it, he's brainwashing you, and we don't need this technology. And it's like, fuck.
And then, she switches it, and Cisco's like, you're not going to put him in there. And she's like, no, I'm going to put you in there. Mm-hmm. You're his commanding officer. So like playing on where they're coming from. They know the Federation, they know the hierarchy stuff, and like just needling into that part to then bring them onto her side. It's like,
right.
Classic.
And I do like, so hitting into the chat a little bit, like Astro pointed out, maybe without her influence and a few more preventable deaths, more of them will leave. But I think it's the brainwashing. It is sad, and Riot pointed that out too, that it sucks that she still won. She still convinced them all to live without technology. But I feel like now they have the choice, that if they can at least be like, let's find a balance here, and we know what's causing this. We're not stuck one way or the other. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like she needs to be ousted at some. I mean, there's going to be like some kind of coup.
They take her away like they arrest her. Yeah, they take her back. Yeah, it's just her and that one other dude, and then it's that older guy that stays behind.
Okay.
Yeah, to run the colony. So that was like. Okay, she's gone. Oh, now they can figure this out on their own. So
yeah.
All right. Anyway, it's a good episode. The hot box is awful and stressful. That's the one everyone remembers.
Yeah.
Can we also point out that O'Brien knows how to string a bow?
Oh, O'Brien.
It was perfect.
Knower of things.
It was great. When he gets that guy, when he like tricks him and he was like, hey, got me to take off my uniform now. And he takes his bow and he puts it between his legs and he shanks it down and takes it. And I was like, wow, O'Brien knows how to string a bow. Like, that was awesome.
So good.
Yeah. And lots of great points in the chat with everything here. How much they were actually a cult, versus like they did live like that because they had no other option, and maybe made the society a little bit better. And then clarifications of, it was Kaiopaka was the question that was people were asking, and she lived through, she was most of season 1, but that's the one that you're thinking of. And then just to close out this episode before we get to the last one, Riot Grains pointed out the kids at the end staring at that hot box broke my heart.
Heartbreaking. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Very powerful. Yeah, powerful scene.
Yeah.
But I'm filled with a little bit of hope in the end of that episode. The fact that she's gone and that they know what the situation is, that they could have some control. So
yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little bit brutal. She's gone. Let's smash the box. Yes, exactly.
Good idea.
Yeah. All right, so the last one we're going to talk about, not to rush through, but we're coming up to the end, but the last one is Shadow Play, and this has very clear A, B, and C plots here. So Odo and Dex find this this village is starting to disappear. They're on an away mission, and they're investigating this mysterious disappearance of these people in this village. Which we'll mostly talk about. The B plot in that one is that Major Kira. So Odo's gone on the away mission, and so Quark sees this as an opportunity to get up to some shenanigans, but Kira's onto him, so Quark invites her boyfriend, Vedic Brile, to the station to distract her so he can try to get on with his shenanigans, which is brilliant. Other than we have to see Vedic Brile again. And, I mean... You know how I really feel. And then the C plot I love. This is about Jake now getting a job on the station with O'Brien and the discussions about joining Starfleet and what he wants with his future. So, yeah, Bono's already on top of it. It's my favorite guy, Vedic Brile. So anyway, this is probably the one we watched fairly recently. So what did you think about this episode?
Well, funnily enough, I watched it last night and I was getting on the notes today and I was like, I don't remember a lot of this episode. I literally watched it less than 12 hours ago. I don't know what that's about. But it was good. I mean, like a lot of stuff packed in, and it did make me realize how much I miss holodeck episodes, because we haven't really had a lot of any of those really.
Nope.
And so this made me go, oh, it's like holograms. Oh, I miss holodeck episodes.
I miss holograms.
Yeah. But
and for those of you who don't remember, this is the one where the people who are disappearing, it's because they are all holograms except for one old dude who lost his entire village, and he basically created this holodeck village for himself, but they're all self-aware, and the tech is breaking down, and so they're trying to repair it, and it's good.
Well, are they self-aware in the beginning, or
they don't know that they're holograms,
right?
Yeah, at no point do they know that they're holograms. I just mean that, like, they have lives of their own and memories.
Oh.
And they have, that's what I meant. Yeah. Sorry. That was
they do. So the one other old guy is self-aware at the end. And he's like, I guess we're just going to have to get used to the fact that we're holograms. But it was nice to see an episode like this that was not, like, it wasn't the holograms taking over, or it was just, some last survivor who just wants to survive this way. And it's not like the episode with Kira and the old guy who has to leave the planet, or that stuff. Like, it's just a guy with his holographic family, and ends up, I liked that was the end plot of that one was positive and not any kind of horrible thing that has to happen. And then what else happened? Jake with telling his dad he doesn't want to join Starfleet was such a great moment. I was like, go Jake, go, be yourself.
Good. Yeah, this is where
it was wonderful.
So he gets sent off to basically work for O'Brien. I mean, Cisco's like, you're 15, you need more responsibility, so get a job. And Jake wants to work at Quark's, and he's like, you're not working at Quark's. You're 15. You're going to go help O'Brien. And O'Brien was like full dad mode, and it was pretty sweet. Like, he was very much like, okay, Jake, like, come on, I'll teach you how to do this. And Jake opened up to him, and he just said, like, I don't know how to tell my dad I don't want to join Starfleet. And I think that there's other stuff for me out there. And I don't want anyone to, if you can, or Samantha, try to not read the chat, but if you're typing something now about Jake's future, don't type it, because I'm really curious how you get to see that. No, that's not the one where Jake gets a crush on one of the Dabo girls. That was that was earlier when he was trying to date one of the Dabo girls. That's where he went to his dad for dating advice. It's like, oh, your first date. He's like, it's not my first date, Dad. So good.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Oh,
great. And I liked, I mean, that's a very real situation when you're scared to tell your parents that you don't want to do something that they kind of had planned for you to do. But Cisco was very like,
yeah,
he just didn't realize that Jake didn't want to. He assumed he would just because that's sort of the thing. And it's, you know, something he wanted potentially him to aspire to, but just didn't know that Jake was not thinking the same way. And
yeah,
his response was very, you know, I could have gone either way. And that's why Jake was so nervous to tell him and talk to him
yeah.
about it. But I just love, I loved his Cisco's response, and their relationship is really one of the best, I think.
Yeah. And it was very realistic. I think that the way that they set it up, because when he first has the discussion about the job, you know, the way Cisco phrased it is like, well, you know, working with O'Brien, it'll look great on your application to Starfleet. And that wasn't like,
Yeah,
you know, because I want you to do this or I want you to do this. It was just like, it'll look good when you apply to Starfleet, not if. And that put that nervousness into Jake of just like,
exactly.
how do I tell him that I don't want to do this? But he was like, okay, you know, I appreciate that. And I hope you keep your options open, but I hope you know that it's okay with me if you do something else. And it was really sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Definite good dad moments in this one.
Good dad moment, Cisco.
All right, let's just talk real quick about Bareil and his stupid face and stupid relationship. The fact that we had to watch them make out that I hate and I'm annoyed by.
I will admit, this episode definitely I went, oh, there's the ick factor. Like I just, you may have accepted it, but at the same time I was like, yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I may have been a bad influence on that one because you definitely, when Bareil first showed up, I was like, ugh, Bareil. And you were like, I don't think he's that bad. Bareil. Stupid face.
I'm watching it now and I'm like, Kira could do better.
Thank you. Agreed. Yeah, I know. Ugh. we don't need to break it down any more than that. But I
Barfy emoji.
I watched that scene like this. I'm just like, ugh. Tell me when it's over. Like a, 8-year-old be like, ugh. No worries,
Ew,
Shadow.
kissing.
I personally find Bareil a little bit creepy and repulsive, and I've not, when he first showed up, I think it was the last session or two times ago.
I think
when he
it was
first
2
showed
times
up.
ago with the bad lady.
Yeah,
What's her
I'm
name
with
again?
with Vedic Win.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the bad lady. That's fair. I mean, I think everyone in the chat knew who you meant when you said the bad lady on Deep Space Nine. No, so like I said, I may have poisoned Samantha's opinion about Vedic Bareil. It's a personal thing, but I really don't like him. So,
Yeah.
shows up. Oh my God, stupid face.
Get your stupid face out of here.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It's more for me, it's like, Kira, come on.
Yeah.
She could do way better.
Yeah. It's funny. And I like so just to kind of pivot, just because we're talking about Kira and her friendship with Odo, it was nice to see the Odo Dax dynamic, to see them working together. So they worked very well together. I think it was very much like, he's the investigator when they're trying to figure out what's going on. She's a scientist, he's a security officer, and they were just kind of like, all right, let's figure out what's going on. And it was kind of cool. It was kind of good.
Yeah.
So I like that one.
Definitely.
Any last notes in the last minute here that we
Vedic
missed?
bad lady.
Yeah.
No, not from me.
I can't. Oh my God, when we finish Deep Space Nine, we are gonna have to do like an entire brunch just breaking down Vedic Win. Like, I have so many opinions. I can't wait to talk about it. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And yeah, last note. All right, the last thing we'll meet on. They mentioned the Dominion. This planet's in the Gamma Quadrant.
Yeah, they do.
He
And
lost-
very like quick line. You would miss it if you didn't know necessarily, but you've mentioned that Dominion come up a couple times and it's like a whole thing. So I was like, they said the word. What's going on?
Yeah, I will say I'm kind of proud about how coy I've been with that, but it's because it's interesting now, for me, having watched this a lot, see the first. So I don't want to let that drop, because I think too they say it in the wiki as well, of just like, oh, this is the first mention of the Dominion, this is the next mention of the Dominion, and so this one, that's who he lost his village to, was the Dominion wiped them out. And so yeah, we're getting the hint that there's a bad organization in the Gamma Quadrant. Like, now we know that there is a massive organization in the Gamma Quadrant. Now we know that they might not be up to good stuff. And yeah, it's cool. Thank you for the follow too. So yeah, any last thoughts? Will we wrap it up?
No.
Cool. All right, so thank you for hanging out with us, everyone. The next week, so we'll be back next Sunday. The next set of episodes that we're gonna do is Playing God, Profit and Loss, Blood Oath,
Great.
which has a nice tie into Discovery, actually, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good callback. And then, thank you, Astro. And then we'll watch The Maquis, Part 1 and 2, and The Wire. Yeah! I love The Wire. That's in my top 5 DS9 episodes of all time. Yeah, I love The Wire. So We'll end with The Wire. We'll make it through Profit and Loss. We'll enjoy Blood Oath. The Maquis is a good one, and then we'll end with The Wire, and we'll have plenty to talk about with that one. So, yep, basically Season 2, episodes 17 through 22. And, yeah. It'll be fun. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Thank you, Samantha, for going on this journey publicly with all of us. And, yeah.
Happy to.
Yep. All right. Well, take care, everyone. And, take care of yourselves and each other. Get up, stretch, grab some water. And I will be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, to play some Mass Effect 2. So we'll see you then. And I love the chat. The two of us were talking this week about how nice it is to just see all the same names and the new names come in and everyone's discussion. And it's really, really fun. I really appreciate it. So, and we will look out for our air quality. Take care.
Yeah.
Stay safe. It's scary out there right now. So, all right. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.